Strap in, everybody. It's the last day of June. What does that mean? That means we're doing the tier list for Eternal Evolution. What are the best heroes for Eternal Evolution as of the end of June 2023? Let's dive directly in there. Now, you guys have seen me do this video. This is one of my most popular segments. We're going to go directly to the tier list right now, and we're going to dive right in. So, I'm going to remove my head right now. So if you guys want to screenshot this, you can. So you're going to get 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, that's your last chance. You can always just kind of rewind and screenshot as well. Now, as you see, last month I kind of rejiggled my tiered list, and I actually split out energy and hunters because I had basically AoE DPS and single target DPS, or multi-single target DPS. But the AoE category had gotten way too big. Now, again, there are heroes missing from this tier list. They are trash heroes that I didn't even want to discuss, them being Murphio, Ornn, Karma, and I think there was one more, but it's off the screen and I'm not going to make you guys look at it. So there are a few heroes off this. If you're looking, if you are a brand new free-to-play player and you're saying, hey, where is this hero? I wonder if he's good. If he's not on here, it means he's so trash, he's not worth talking about. Use him as food. Okay, let's dive into tanks first. Tanks, probably the most clear-cut, easy class to talk about. Panda is still your #1 go-to tank in this game. That's not to say that he's going to deal the most damage. That's not to say that he's going to be the most tanky. But if your tank team does not have a Panda, or in the tank-related content, if you don't have a Panda, because most of that content relies on knockdowns to generate your damage, if you don't have him, your team is dead in the water. Now, for that reason, Pandemonium's #1. Womagon, he is a mean mofo. So Womagon, you could make an argument on areas of why Womagon is better than Panda. He does more damage. You use him in the Thundercliffs right now. I'm assuming that a Hunter next month is going to replace him finally, but not Thundercliffs. You use him. Well, you do use him in Thundercliffs. You use him in Crimson Abyss. Stage 15, 14, 13. You use him in Thundercliff, stage 6, 5, 4, 3. You use him anywhere you're going to use a tank. You can use him as a solo tank because he has so much good stuff built into his kit. He is definitely a top tier character. But the reason why I don't give him a higher place in this ranking versus Panda is because on the PvP tank team and in tank specific content, you have to have Panda. Otherwise, Womagon doesn't go. Zeta, the only other triple S tank in the game. She is a super meat shield. She is very good, but she's definitely not as good as Pandemonium and Womagon. Then we get into Vegnus and Oysa. So I still use Oysa at times in PvP. I think she's a really good PvP tank based on all of her CC capability in her kit. Vegnus is the free-to-play tank god. So if you don't have Womagon, if you have Pandemonium and Vegnus, well, you got yourself a tank team, and then just throw Oak or Boar or someone on there and you can go. Vegnus, he was a Rise of Heroes release character. He is he's a very good tank, but he's definitely not going to compete with the Triple S, which is why I group him and Oysa together. Good for PvE. Not so great for PvP. I think Oysa has the edge in PvP, which is why they are grouped together. And then we get into the kind of the lower tier tanks. Oak used to be so good in this game when he first came out due to his cheat death mechanic. Boar has a really annoying mechanic where he basically creates a whole nother HP bar. And Boar does still have some endgame uses against Leos, but they definitely don't compete with the rest, in my opinion. Queet had a brief moment in the sun on a tank team against summoners, but then now he's just gone. He's still this far up on the list because you can use him. I still see him sometimes on some of my free-to-play account arenas, but he's kind of fallen out of favor. Don't spend too much time on old Queet. Definitely don't take him to X30. Out of this list, the only people I would recommend taking X30 is obviously Panda, Womagon, and Zeta. If you have a lot of red runes, I would say Womagon, Panda for sure, but the rest, Zeta maybe, the rest no. And then in the trash category, Hercules and Langle. Don't spend any resources on them. You will never use them unless you were in the first month of the game. Healers. Okay, so healers is a small category. Oh, the phone's blowing up. Healers are a small category. Now, there is some contention in this. I still put Masrani as the number 1. Why? Because he's a better healer than Miranda, and Miranda is a better support. Miranda's heals are kind of subpar. Her shield is great, but what you're getting most out of Miranda is the attack boosts for any team you put her on, and more specifically an energy and a hunter team. That's what makes Miranda great. I wish I had 2 of her. But Masrani is just an outright better healer, in my opinion. You still use both of them everywhere. They're both absolute bonkers must-have characters in any account. But I am still giving Masrani the edge. Come at me, donkey. And then Serena is still great as well. Serena, you know, you can get her up there at Hyper Evolved 120 really easily because she is a elite character. I wouldn't recommend 120 though. Maybe just 40 and stop at her. X20, I would never recommend now putting X30 into her. But she's still a really good healer because she has an AoE heal that reaches anywhere on the map. There is no limit or range restriction on her heals. Badahow on the other hand, I'm losing my voice already. Too many videos today. She's a great single target healer, but her kit, I don't know what they were doing with her kit. She does have an attack buff, but it's like a tiny little radius around her that it's pretty much meaningless. She's good at taking someone from 0 health to full. So in that case, she is good or decent on a tank team. If you're using Miranda and Masrani elsewhere, say like Summon Arena or the upcoming Infernal Arena, which is where you're going to get some use out of Bada. Loran, I know Gameplay Horizon still loves his Loran on a tank team in the double heal tank team, but he's just kind of subpar. Free to play, Loran is going to be your healer for a long time. Him and Serena until you get to week 4, where you get your Masrani and you get your Masrani to Immortal, whereas then those 3 are going to be your heals for your Galactic Arena or any game content that requires 3 PvP teams or 3 teams. Like I'm looking at like Elite Chapter, also not Elite Chapter, Elite Campaign or whatever that is. You need 3 heals until you get Miranda, and then as soon as you get Masrani, Miranda, and Serena up there, then Loran goes bye-bye. You'll never use him again. But he's not trash. He's definitely not trash. He's still a decent healer, and he has some good PvP things baked into his kit, which as such is why he's still here. Energy. Okay, this is where we get our first of 2 new release heroes to this tier list. Northion, still number 1. You guys have seen me do a bunch of Northion videos this last month, kind of flaming EE and the PIV program, but Northion is king. He is still the number 1 best hero in the game. At the time you were seeing this tier list, for a week after the date of release of this video, there is a pack to buy him for $200 US. I'm not telling you to do that. I'm just saying let your conscience be your guide. He is still the best hero in the game, and he has been the best hero in the game. He is a hard carry in almost every piece of content available. Northion is king. So he is not moving from his place at the top of the tier list. But then we got Jaina. Now, Jaina is basically like Luke on steroids. Go look at my look back video. Go look at my deep dive video on her. She is fantastic. I love her. I love her art. Everything about her is awesome, except that she can't be used in as many places as Nord. But she has an unlimited range when there are more than 5 characters on the field, or 5 or more characters on the field. She is a summoner destroyer completely. She's cemented the energy team as the summoner, like, hard counter. She is awesome as such, but she's not as good as Nord, so she's definitely number 2 on the energy class hierarchy. Then we get into Luke and Ravenna. Now, Ravenna's lost a little bit of viability. She still has some uses in the game. If you don't have Jaina, you're still going to run your Ravenna. She is still better than Jaina in the Sincero Marsh, just due to the AI of her kit. She's still good, but between Luke and Ravenna, Luke is much more usable in PvP. He has unlimited range. He works perfectly still on the energy team for PvP. He's still used in Sincero Marsh. He's used A lot of places where you're going to have like Energy Bond and Twilight, you're still going to use Luke over Ravenna. Ravenna does have a lot of AoE because she can pump out damage really quick, but she's got that limited range cone, which puts her in harm's way, and she's really squishy and she dies. So she's a great hero. Loved Ravenna when she came out. Loved her, still love her, but she's just her usability and her... Jaina has outshined her and kind of edged her out. So there's going to be a lot of heroes coming up soon that are going to edge out other SSS heroes that used to have a hard spot on any team. And then we get into the elites. So Falvia and Kayn are the two undisputed best energy AoE characters if you do not have Luke, Jaina, Ravenna, or Nord. They are awesome. They've buffed Falvia to make her even more awesome. Falvia is really, really good. I'm going to put her ahead of Kayn slightly, but both of them together at X20 with all their talents done up are excellent elite AoE energy characters. Now we get into the single target multi-hit energy characters. Now, these two have a little bit of have been definitely relegated outside of usefulness for end game players, but for beginning game players, Sorietta is still a mainstay in your roster. Sorietta is still really good. I don't want to say that she's bad. She's great for free to play or for beginning heroes in places in the game because she is basically like a hunter, but she's an energy, which is going to limit her a little bit, but she has great multi-target single hit damage, single target multi-hit abilities, so you can use her in Disa Caves as you're leveling and blah 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 blah. Nautilus is a reward from Twilight Lands. The reason why he's so far down is that he's a pre-launch at release character. He is basically like Sorietta but the SSS version, but you won't, by the time you get an immortal Nautilus, his usefulness will have become irrelevant. So that is why he is on this place on the list. Nagrama, I was a Nagrama simp when he came out. New players, if you get him, he will be your egg killer in Sincero Marsh. So he does still have a use. It's just that that's his only use. And as such, he has this place on the tier list. Omar and Paluno. You know, the game is going to give you Omar and Paluno really, really early, and you could use them early, but then as soon as you get other better characters on this list, they're going to be completely displaced. So I would say only take them to X10 if you have the purple runes, but don't give them anything past X10. That's my recommendation. Paluno, you're going to use him in, like, say, the faction mines. You're going to use him on energy teams, because your energy characters are going to be Nagrama, Sorietta, and Paluno for the most part. Or say Sorietta, Omar, and Paluno. You will use him briefly, and then you'll never use him again. So that is the energy category. Hunters. Okay, this is where we get our second, our second of two new heroes to grace the tier list for June. Rebecca. Now, prior to the release of the new dungeon in Kitosian Triangle, I had Rebecca butted up right against Rosaris because I felt that the two of them were going to be required for, well, they are required for PvP, even though you don't really need Becca if you have a much better hunters. But let's talk about Rosaris first. Rosaris is the damage dealer engine of every hunter team, which is why she's first on this list. Rosaris will buff the attack speed of all your heroes. She's required in the Disa Caves X levels. She's pretty much required in the new Hunter Dungeon in Kitosian Triangle. She is pretty much, if they put any Hunter content in the game, Rosaris is who you want on your team to make the team go. Rosaris is very, very, I'd say her X30 is, if you're going to do any Hunter X30 first, I would say that Rosaris is the one to do. Rebecca is also good as well, but Rosaris is much more important, and as such, Rosaris, these are hunters, is the undisputed top tier of the hunter class. Rebecca, like I said, prior to the new dungeon being released yesterday, I had her butted up right against Rosaris because I thought those two were going to be needed for all the hunter content in game. She's not. She's basically elevates the hunter team in PvP. She is, when she's required in PvE content, she's good. But for the new dungeon, you don't need her at all to actually complete stage 6 of the new dungeon. As such, I could not give her make her share the spotlight with Rosaris. She's good. She's number 2 on the list, but she's definitely not Rosaris tier. And then we get into Moriyami and Emma. Now, I had Emma way back last month for May. I had Moriyami and Prygor ahead of her because Moriyami and Prygor were required for the PvP team. Moriyami and Prygor are AoE hunters. Again, Rosaris is also an AoE hunter, and Rebecca is a single target, multi-damage hit hunter. But Rebecca's kit, what she brings to the table with her support capabilities, elevates her over Moriyami, Emma, and Prygor. Now, Moriyami is a damage monster. You get her even up to X20. You put her in a situation where AoE hunters are required. She's going to almost out-damage your X30 hunters at X20. Moriyami is that good, and she has just been released as a more easily accessible for free-to-play in the Endless Battles store. So Moriyami, I would say, is definitely number 3 on this list over Emma. The reason why Emma got a bump up this tier list this month is because Emma is required for the new Hunter Dungeon in Katosian Triangle. All right? So Emma shines in that dungeon. Emma was required for the Endless Battle Hunter battle, and I think that those Endless Battles are going to cycle through all of the different classes, and as such, you're going to be required to get Emma now every time that the new Katosian Dungeon is up, but also whenever the Hunter battle comes around in Endless Battles. So Emma is getting a hard number 4 on the Hunter tier list. Prygor, she is also really, really good. So if you don't have Rebecca and you have superb hunters, Prygor does have a place on the Hunter PvP team, but Rebecca kind of pushed her out. Prygor is an AoE hunter. As such, any kind of content where there's AoE hunters required, she's good. But definitely with the new Katosian dungeon and the Endless Battle, she got pushed out as soon as Rebecca came in. So as such, Prygor is number 5. Now, Azina also got bumped up a little bit from last month in May. Why? I think I had her down here with Old John in May. The reason why she got bumped up is because she is usable in the new Katosian dungeon. That dungeon is a single target multi-hit required boss fight, and as such, Azina actually does decent damage, and she helps that team. So as such, Azina is right in the back half, kind of the middle of the Hunter tier list. Taylor and Botmark. Taylor is still fabulous. You use him, a free-to-play new player, mid-game player is going to use Taylor everywhere and Botmark everywhere. Taylor was required if you wanted to get the best score in the Hunter Endless Battle boss. Taylor still is mandatory for early Guild Hunt Turbine boss content. He's still used by everyone at endgame, but he's not triple S level. He doesn't bring to the table what the people above him do. Botmark, another great hero. You can use him in the new Katosian dungeon as well on stage 6 or level 6. He is great as a single target, just bangs out those hits, but he does get outshined. Old John, other than Zerax, if you're not Zerax, Old John is going to be bringing up the rear for the tier list, because he's a Rise of Heroes release hero hunter. He's got a limited range. He does have some interesting things in his kit, but he requires almost X30 to get anything out of him. As such, given his niche use, he is last in the hunter category. Okay, let's move my head. What are we at for time here? 20 minutes. Man, these videos get longer and longer and longer. Okay. Melee. I still have not separated melee from vanguards or assassins. I think I will eventually. I'll have to combine support and healers together. That's probably going to happen at some point. But for now, we can kind of discuss melee as a broad range. Now, it is kind of difficult to separate. Now, especially with all the content in game, you do kind of have to talk about hunters and vanguards separately. I think in July is when I will finally break these two out. But if I had to give, and I did put Barag as number 1 now. So Leo had a good run. Leo had a good run, and he's still fabulous hero. I don't want people to poop on him. Leo is still fantastic. He's used everywhere. He is a must-have character for any roster, given all of his capabilities. I don't have to discuss that here. But Barog, you build him right. You get him up to X30. Oh, man, look out. He can solo teams. He is absolutely hard required for the dungeon in Thundercliffs, the Thundercliff dungeon. If you don't have him, you aren't getting anywhere. Like, that is just a hard. You don't have Barog, you're not going to beat this. So as such, Barog, given everything he can do, I know people kind of slept on him a little bit when he was released, but over time now, he is a fantastic hero. So I'm giving him the #1 spot for melee, Leo #2. But then we do have to kind of, as I said, break out assassins from Vanguards in this discussion. Rickert and Dominic. Now, Dominic is another one, kind of like Barog, where people kind of disregarded him a little bit when he got released. I know there was the assassin people that were just trying to make assassins cool, and assassins are fabulous. Again, they're like hunters. You got to put a lot of resources into them. And now Dominic's kit, all of the little fine details of his kit are now coming to light. Just look at the endless battles right now going on. You are required to use Dominic in every single battle. Well, you're not 100% required, but if you want best scores, you do. But he really needs Rickert to work with him. Those two work so well in tandem that they're going to share the #3 spot. Rickert and Dominic. Rickert, when he got released, was a game changer for Whale. He turned Whale Guild Hunt boss from a hunter dungeon or a hunter boss into an assassin boss. And then Dominic and Rickert together do magical things. As such, they share the #3 spot on this tier list. Now we get into the people that are most likely to be replaced in the future. I know after Summoner Cycle that's coming up here shortly, we're going to get probably another Assassin Cycle. Dominic is in game right now. He's the bookend of the Assassin Cycle. We're probably going to get a new Assassin at near the later part of July that is going to replace Bailey Hudson as such. And then after that, I think is a Vanguard Cycle or a Tank Cycle. I can't remember. But Crete is probably next on the chopping block to be replaced on the Vanguard team as well. But right now, they do have their places on those two teams and in those PvE areas where Assassins and Vanguard are needed. But I could only put them here together on this list. Bailey Hudson, how far are you fallen? And now we get into the bottom of the melee class. So Na Fang, if you have really good Vanguards, you can slot Na Fang on a Vanguard PvP team and they will beat Hunters. And then Artis, he had fallen way out of favor, but now you can use him in the Thundercliffs to great effect. I know you can use him even on stage 6. Guan Yu, he pretty much poop. I use him on stage 5 in the Thundercliffs, and that's the only place I use him, so he does have some usability as such. I'm not going to call them trash, but they're close to. And then Rakana and Randall, they're not trash. You will use them until you get Bailey, Rickert, and Dominic. Those will be your hunters, and those will be the ones you have to use at the beginning game. They're not horrible. Rakana and Randall, I like them. I still like them. It's just that the other heroes have come out that have kind of supplanted them, and they are last on the melee / Vanguard / Assassin tier list. Support. This one's really easy. Rez is used everywhere in endgame. If there's a meta comp, Rez is probably on it. No more discussion. Rez is awesome. Anaruda. If you have an X30 maxed out Anaruda, you can do some interesting things, but I would never recommend that as such. I'm not going to call him trash, but I'm not going to call him required or OP as such. He is right in the middle of straight support characters. Hypnos. He is now trash again. So Hypnos had a brief moment in the sun where he was bugged in one of the Katosian dungeons. They have fixed that bug. Hypnos is now trash. You can once again use him for food. What are we at? Ooh, we're gonna get it under half an hour. Daniel. Okay, summoners. Now, this is a class that, or a tier class that is going to change next month in July, because we know we have 100% hard confirmation that at the time of recording this video, 1 week from now, we're getting a new summoner. Don't know what that summoner is going to do yet. Don't know what that summoner is going to bring to the table. I know what I want. I want an SSS level Muka. I want a tanky summoner up front that has lots of summons that Ampu can proc. but I want him to be really tanky. I want kind of like a Wamagon for summoners. Wamagon is a tank that deals a lot of damage. Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up right there. That's what I want. We'll see what we get. As such, right now, summoners haven't changed in forever. Daniel, number 1, I'd say X30 Daniel first if you're going to hyper-evolve X30 a summoner, because he's the one that buffs all of the other summoners, or the other summoners' summons. It's Daniel. But Ampu and Servali, you definitely need the trifecta, the triumvirate of these 3 summoners for the Crimson Abyss team, for any PvP team. You don't need Ampu or Servali for Guild Hunt on the Turbine boss, and that is why they can't supplant Daniel or can't be considered equal to Daniel on the summoner tier list. Until they change Ampu's kit or classification in Guild Hunt right now, his summoners exploding count as hero damage and not summons damage. And it's the summons damage that does the damage on Guild Hunt Turbine. If they do that, if they change the whatever that explosion is, the corpse explosion on Ampu, then he is going to be 1B to Daniel. Till then, though, he is strictly number 2. And then Servali is pretty much trash if you don't have Ampu. As such, it's weird. They all kind of rely on each other. But Servali is number 3 because she's the one that buffs and makes Ampu's damage skyrocket. So an easy 1, 2, 3 for the SSS level. Actually, we got 4 SSS for summoners, but those 3 are the 1, 2, 3 classification of the summoner tier list. Now, Skewer and Hattie, Senway, Kalaza, Muka. They're all still used. Every summoner right now is used in this game. As such, that's why they're all kind of to the front end of this list. Now, Skewer and Hattie, really the only place you're going to use her nowadays is in the Guild Hunt Turbine boss. But if you do not have Skewer and Hattie in that comp, your team's just not going to do the damage. As such, she has a definite required spot in this list and in this game from beginning game right to end game. As such, she is number 4. But Senway and Kalaza are also required on that team. And at beginning game, you're going to run Senway and Kalaza on your summoner team with Daniel, right? They're going to be your mainstay or your summoners until you start to get the other triple S summoners. And given that you still use Senway and Kalaza on the Guild Hunt team today at endgame, that's why they're butted up there right with Skewer and Hattie. I'm probably going to have to move Kalaza ahead of Senway a little bit, because if you were to replace someone on the Guild Hunt Summoner team from Dan, Skewer, Senway, Kalaza, it's probably going to be Senway. Kalaza does put out more damage. And then we got Muka. Muka's not... The only place really Muka is needed is he can be used in Crimson Abyss prior to the tank buff or the tank mechanics change in Crimson Abyss. You needed Muka X30 to get stage 15 down. Now, Muka still does have some uses. You still need him in-game for the summoner boss in the Katosian Triangle, and you still, he is the best 5th to bring into the Terradome X123 levels. Since you still need him, he's still viable, he's still good. You know, he's gotten better, he's aged like a fine wine. So, as such, all of the summoners are used at endgame today. They're all viable. They're all good heroes. But 1, 2, and 3 is definitely Daniel, Ampu, and Servali. Wow, I did this in under half an hour. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you one more chance if you're still watching, if you didn't stop and pause. I'm going to take my head out of here so you can screenshot this. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so that is the tier list for Eternal Evolution, the best heroes in the game, ranked by class. And it's very easy. If you were going to say ranked as a whole, it's probably Nord, Panda, Dan, Barag, Mazrani. If I was just to wing it off the cuff, right? Heroes in the front, basically the front 2 columns, are going to be the best in the game overall. Yep. Okay. All right, we're going to wrap it up right there. If you've made it to the end of this video, the word of the day, or the safe word of the day, is June. Because this is the end of June. This is the tier list for June 2023. I'll catch you in the next one, ladies and gentlemen. Till next time, cheers. Peace. Where's my mouse? There we go. Bye-bye.